Hello, my name is Tom Kleik. I'm the National Fleet Account Manager for Horton, and today we're at the Horton headquarters in Roseville, Minnesota, and I'm going to go over a simplified overview of the DM Advantage, both on-off and two-speed. Okay, first I want to start with an overview of the repair options for the DM Advantage. So we came out with a two-sided sheet that is laminated for the technicians, also added QR codes. So they can go through either a seal kit if there's an air leak, we can put a clutch pack kit in it if the friction liner is worn, or we can put a full reman on if you prefer that. If you would like a number of these laminated versions sent for your technicians, you can call us at 1-800-621-1320, or if you just like a PDF version of it, you can go to our website at hortonww.com. Horton fan drives are very reliable. The only thing I ever really see is an air leak once in a while. Typically the air leak is coming out of the back of the fan drive. There's a bleed hole in the back of that. If it's leaking out of there, that means the cartridge internal to the fan drive needs to be replaced. And with this type of fan drive, you'd have to put a seal kit in to do that. But first you have to determine if that's all you need. And by doing that, you measure the liner thickness, okay? So we have Horton liner gauges that we offer as for tools that we can give your technicians. You can either measure an on-off or two-speed. They're color-coded, red and green. And you can hold it up against the liner, against the friction disc, and if it's in the green, then you can just put a seal kit in the product, or if it gets into the red where the liner's wearing a little further, then you would need something more like a clutch pack kit or a reman. So I'd like to cover the tools. So Horton offers a couple different varieties of tool kits for you. You can either go with a full diagnostic and tool kit, which has gauges so you can measure air pressure on the truck. I recommend that if you get the fan drive, if it comes in and it comes with a worn liner, you want to check your air pressure, make sure you have appropriate air pressure. It should be at least 90, and it can go as high as about 135 psi. Or you can just get a smaller tool kit if you're just going to do a rebuild, and that comes with everything you see here. So once we have the tools, then we can start with the repair options. We either have a seal kit. We have a seal kit that includes the tools, the same part number just with a T at the end of it. Or if the liner is worn, we have clutch pack kits. We made the clutch pack kits universal, so they can either fit the 2.56 pilot, like on your Internationals, Freightliners, Volvos, or we've added a ring that you can add to put a 5-inch pilot on it to cover your Peterbilt and Kenworths. And then we have studs that you can put on the outside here. The other ones would just come along for the ride. So one size fits all. We have an on-off version of that. We also have a two-speed version of that. And then if you don't feel confident rebuilding the product, you can always order a reman. And we have remans in both on-off and two speeds. And then for a reman, you have to go to the Horton website and either type in the full VIN in our search box at hortonww.com, or you can type in a cross-reference part number or the application information to find out what reman you may need. And now I'm going to cover how to actually put either a seal kit or a clutch pack kit in a fan drive that came in with an air leak or maybe a friction liner wear. And we'll start by taking it apart using our tools. So you have your T55 Torx bit, and we have fan mounting disc removal tool. This is kind of nice because it's got one side for a 2.56 pilot, the other side is for the 5-inch fan pilot. So we have the 2.56 today, so we're going to use that side. Install your breaker bar on there, and even though this does say left-hand thread, it's actually from the back side. So you would do this lefty-loosey. So you want to turn it the right way, break it loose, hold the jack bolt, and you can spin off the FMFD. Fan mounting friction disc. Okay? And we're going to keep that. If we're just putting a seal kit in, we're going to need that for later. So once you get down to this level, we then would need to put our cage nut on. There's springs in here, like coil springs, that we have to cage, so as we take off the liner screws, the springs don't release. And that can just be hand tightened on there. Okay, now we've caged the springs, we can now take out the liner screws. And that is a T27. Comes in the kit, or most technicians will have it in their toolbox. Now what I like to do is break them loose by hand. If you use a power tool, you could strip them out, and if you do that, then you're probably most likely have to drill them out or maybe go the reman route. So I make sure that the holes are clean. Sometimes they get some liner dust in there, so make sure your screw heads are cleaned. Make sure you get good tool engagement. And then you'll break them all loose. So once you have them all loose, then you can grab a power tool and remove them very quickly. And you will get new screws with Loctite in the kits, so you can discard these screws. Okay, then we can remove the liner and make sure not to get a whole lot of grease on this if we're going to reuse it. So we'll set that aside. And then from here we want to remove our clutch pack assembly. You grab a screwdriver and you can pry up from the side. If it's difficult to remove, you can put a little bit of air pressure on the back side. Just make sure you hang on to that, but put some air pressure in, it'll pop that loose. You take that off, and then you can see inside the clutch pack. We're going to save that as well. If we're going to reuse that, we'll be using a seal kit. Remove our quad seal. That will be replaced. You get a new seal in the kit. And then we come down to our air cap. To remove the air cap, you take off the snap ring. There's a little lip you can get underneath there. You can walk it around. You do get a new snap ring in the kit, so you can discard this as well. And then from here, I like to take 2 screwdrivers to pry up on that air cap. Okay, that'll pop out. So once you remove the air cap, you can remove the O-ring. You do get a new one of those in the kit as well. And we're going to remove the face seal. And replace that new. So we're going to save that air cap. Then we get down to the air cartridge. And to get the air cartridge out of there, you do have to take out the snap ring, and then we can remove the air cartridge. And since we're not going to reuse the old cartridge, you can grab it and pull that out. And again, if this is difficult to remove, you can hold your finger over the cartridge, put some air on the back side, and it will pop out, but just make sure you have your hand over it so it doesn't come shooting out of there. So once you remove that, that's going to be discarded. We'll replace that new as well. Then what you want to do is look inside there and make sure that your air passageway is clean and free of rust and debris. If it has some things in there, you can take a wire brush, clean that out, take some air from the back side, blow that out. Make sure it's nice and clean before you put it back together. The other thing I like to do is just check the bearings. So I'll just spin the back bearing. Horton uses what we call the Drac bearing on the back side. It's a double angular contact bearing. It's a very heavy duty bearing. It's designed to go the distance. So it's essentially a 1,000,000-mile bearing. So that's why we want you to just keep that bearing in there rather than taking it out. So you don't have to remove the main nut or the back bearing. You don't need a special press or anything. And from this point, we can start cleaning it up and putting it back together. Take our rag, make sure we clean all the old grease out of there. So our passageway is clean. We can start then reassembling. So to start with reassembly, you would start out with your new air cartridge and grease, lube up those O-rings. Okay, and push that in. Try not to get any grease on the tip of this cartridge. That needs to stay dry. Push that in, and I like to take a little screwdriver just to make sure it's seated as far down as it can go. And then what we're going to do is take our new snap ring that comes in the kit. Snap ring does have a flat side on one end and a beveled on the other. I like to put the beveled up just because you could do it either way, but it's a little easier to get the snap ring in there with the bevel up and make sure it's snapped into place. So you bring your snap ring pliers, push that down, and then I like to take a screwdriver and just go around, walk around and make sure it's snapped in. And you'll see that, and you also hear it. Okay, now we're going to get the air cap ready to reinstall. And the first thing we need to do is put a new face seal in there. That comes in the kit. That threads in, and we're going to torque that to 62 inch-pounds. And we want to put our new O-ring in. Also comes in the kit, but we have to lubricate that first. I'm going to take a clean part of the rag, make sure we have a nice clean surface on the face seal, a nice clean surface on the cartridge tip, and then we're ready to reinstall the air cap. Keep it even, just push down, and then we'll install our new snap ring. This is not directional, so you can put it in either way. Just grab a screwdriver, walk it around, make sure it's all the way snapped in. And then we're going to take some of our O-ring lube and we're going to lube out the inside here. I like to lube everything just because this is an as-cast surface, it could rust, so you want to make sure everything's lubed up in there. All the way up where the friction material surface is, but try not to get any on that. If you do, you can just wipe it off. And the next thing we want to do is grab our quad seal. That is new in the kit as well. The quad seal is directional. So if you look at this quad seal, you have a cup on one side and it's flat on the other. You want the cup to always go down. And we're going to lube that up as well. I can just kind of go around and make sure it's all covered, both sides. And again, cup goes down. And just push it down, make sure it lays flat in there on that top groove. And then what we're going to do is take the rest of our grease and we're going to put it right, well, most of the rest I should say, we're going to save a little bit, but put it right where the quad seal is. Take our finger, make sure we have it uniform all the way around. This is the point that we're either going to finish it up with the old parts by just installing a seal kit, or we can now put our clutch pack kit on here if we go that route. So if our friction material happened to be worn, at that point we would go to the clutch pack kit, and it makes it a lot simpler because we pre-assemble that clutch pack kit for you. So what I do is just wipe the surface off here, and grab the clutch pack kit, and you want to put a little bit of lube on the back side, just where that quad seal is going to sit. So right down on this level. Again, trying to avoid the surface where the friction material goes. Okay, and if you get a little bit on there, you just wipe that off. You set this down on top. At a slight angle. Push it down. Then from here, what you want to do is you want to turn this 180 degrees before you start putting the screws in it. What that does, it helps kind of distribute the grease and it seats this quad seal in there. Okay, and as you come around, you're going to line up the screw holes, and from there you do get a new pack of screws. We would then put in all the new screws in every one of the holes. Run them down with your gun, but not tight yet, and then you're going to torque those to 80 inch-pounds. And now, if we decided that we did want to reuse our old parts and we're just going to use the seal kit, I'll show you that as well. So we'll take this back off since we didn't put the screws in it. Make sure our cup on our quad seal is facing down again. To rebuild with the parts that you had taken off, you then grab your clutch pack that you've caged. And you take your grease and put some grease on the surface where the quad seal will meet. Give it about in there, just wipe off that surface again. And then again, you just put it at a slight angle. Press that down. And again, we want to turn this 180 degrees so we can seat that quad seal and move that grease around. Okay, line up the holes. Make sure your hands are clean. Grab the friction material, making sure not to get any grease on that. Line up those holes. And now we can reinstall the new screws with the Loctite. Take our T27 Torx bit. I like to just get them started. Make sure you don't cross thread them. Okay, then you can take your gun and run them in, but don't run them in tight, just snug them. And in doing this, you want to do the star pattern just like you would a wheel. And again, you're going to torque these down to 80 inch-pounds. Now I take a clean rag and just make sure that friction material is nice and clean. And from here, now we've caged the springs again with the liner screws so we can remove our cage nut. I always encourage the technicians to, you get the tools in the kit, so keep them. they're reusable, I'd put them in my toolbox and I'd use them next time, just in case kit were not to come with them, or you needed somebody else needed to borrow them. Okay, from there we can now clean up our friction disc, and we can thread that back on. It's got to hold the jack bolt so you can get it threaded on enough. Okay, we're going to torque that jack bolt down to 100 foot-pounds. Again, we have to hold the FMFD with our tool, and it's 2.56 pilot. Once you re-torque, take tools out. The rebuild is now complete, but what we want to do is check with air pressure now before you put it on the vehicle. You want to make sure that there's no air leaks, everything looks good. You want to install it and find out you have an air leak and have to take it off and start over again. So I would apply some shop air to the back side. You spin it. As you spin it now, you can see the whole clutch is engaged. And when you put air to it, it will disengage. This FMFD will pull up, and this will spin independent of the back pulley. And if you don't hear any air leaks, you are ready to install back on the vehicle. We've now completed the simplified options and repair for the DM Advantage on-off and 2-speed. Thanks for watching.